few minutes ago, Andy mentioned how many of you are the chief pilot of your operation. And I started to raise my hand, and then Sherry looked at me, and I realized that was going to be a mistake. So I'm a pretty good first officer, I guess. We've had a great year with COPA University, and I get to talk about this a lot of times over the course of the year, and we get to do a lot of work, and it's sort of my favorite thing to talk about. So I have a few things to share with you. What I'd really like you to do is come to one of our events and experience COPA University. We're building a culture of safety by the variety of activities that we do. And those activities include things like CDMs and CPPPs, and we're going to enhance that next year a little bit with some new things. I want to talk to you about the themes that we used within COPA University for 2016. Those themes were command and control. Our team looked at a series of accidents, and we said, you know, the thing that happens before a fatal accident is the pilot loses command of the airplane, but the airplane's generally still flying in a flyable condition for some time until the accident. Let's focus on that and try to leverage that time period. So that's what command and control has been about. We came up with a conceit that we call the 6 sacred skills, and I know it's corny, and I know you don't get a lot if you've come to CPPP and you see what they are. Some of these are pretty advanced and pretty rare navigation techniques that you don't get asked to use every day. What we're trying to do with this is enhance your level of comfort working with the complexity of the navigation equipment in your airplane. And when you become comfortable with that, the routine daily things will also become easier. So that conceit has worked pretty well. And we've incorporated into all of our offerings the 6 sacred skills. We've done a lot of work on the weather training and expanded our weather courses. We have 2 courses on the different flight books, AeroV and what's the one we all use? 4Flight, right? 4Flight, yeah. And the other theme throughout everything we've done at COPA University is enhance our presentation graphics. And that sounds like kind of a boring thing. And to a certain extent, it is boring. But what we're preparing for is the future, and the future is some online delivery. And it turns out you've got to think about things like fonts, because the font that you just, you know, when you start typing on Word may not translate very well to a web page, and it has to be consistent. So we've had to be educated. We've spent a year getting educated about how you do things in a way that we've heard what people have said. We'd like to be able to sit at our computer at home, and when we're not on the forum posting about why we should do this that way or another way, we'd like to maybe learn something too. So we want to present a few things online. So we're going to do that. We're learning how to do that right now. I want to tell you a little bit about numbers for 2016. We're not through with the CPPP and CDMs for 2016. We're still going, but as of now, we've had 602 registered participants for CPPP events in 2016. You deserve an applause for that. We were sort of hovering around $250,000 for several years in the registration, what it costs to attend and what people paid to come to CPPPs. We're nearing $400,000. We'll exceed $400,000. And by the way, the participant number is going to go up before the end of the year as well. Sherry and I were doing a back of the envelope calculation, and I said, "You think it'll be 700?" And she says, "No, I don't think it'll be 700, but probably over 650 for the year." And out of those folks who've so far registered, 193 had never been to a CPPP before. So that's a nice number of new attendees. And who's made it possible? You have. You have. You've done it in a couple of ways. One is by your attendance and your presence. The other is by gifts and donations to our Safety and Education Foundation. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. However, since we formed the foundation, I want to show you what the growth curve looks like. The foundation was formed in 2014, and that year CPPP attendance was 400. In the 2 years since that formation, we have grown 50%. And when Andy shows you the accident curve going this way for Cirrus and this way for GA, and you see the training experience and the number of people who have gone to training events go from here to here, I think you have your answer. I really do. I think that's where the answer is. We take this seriously as a group, and we're a large percentage of the Cirrus pilots out there. And when you do that and work in numbers like that, you get results. So again, you deserve an applause for your safety. We do, when you register for CPPP, we give you an opportunity to donate to the foundation, a tax-deductible gift that we use to do and create the programs that we present. The funds raised through that process and at the events are for $40,000. Well, actually, they're not $40,000. We realized that we were also making an appeal at the dinners and talking about the foundation, and folks were coming up to us spontaneously saying, I'd like to participate, I'd like to support what you're doing. And so when we went back and re-added up the numbers that aren't the numbers coming in off the computer system, we realized that this year it was closer to $100,000. So great, we're raising money. What are you doing with it? You know, I mean, it's one good thing to have money, but what do you do with that money? Well, the first thing that we did is we asked the foundation to give the Training LLC a grant of $50,000 to create an online simulator laboratory. And we call it the John Leber Simulator Laboratory because at the Spokane CPPP, I had the pleasure of flying with John Leber. And we made our appeal for what we do at the dinner. And John came up to me after the dinner and said, I'd really like to do something pretty significant for you. I'd like to help you get this kicked off and going well. I really enjoyed what you're doing here. My wife is a partner in command. She's really committed to aviation. She loves flying with me. It's changed our lives. We'd like to participate by making a sizable contribution. Unfortunately, about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, he was badly injured in an industrial accident at the company he owned. He survived for several months, and in the planning and knowing that things may not go well, he wanted to make a contribution to the Safety and Education Foundation, which he did. He donated a simulator, and so we decided to name the simulator laboratory environment the John Leber Simulator Laboratory. And that's some of the folks working in it right there. We've got a couple of our instructors and 3 participants. I believe that's at Houston, I believe, last year, Houston. You can see they're wearing headsets because they're talking to ATC. And if you go in that room, I think this is sort of interesting. If you go in that room while they're working, you could probably pick up a guitar and a set of drums and start playing in there, and they're not going to notice. They're that immersed in what's going on because they have those headsets on and they're talking to ATC and they're flying. It's a really interesting laboratory. We're going to make some enhancement to it in the next year. So that's one of the things we do with the donations. The second thing that we do is we are now doing an annual development conference. Last year we did it in Las Vegas. I think we'll do it this year in Las Vegas. But we bring together the heads of the COPA University departments. We use the metaphor of a university as a way of describing what we do, and the folks who are in charge of each individual part of COPA University are the deans of their colleges. And you see Peter King there on the end is the dean of the College of Avionics. Tim Presser is the international dean. Roger is the dean of aircraft technology, the things in your airplane, how they work. We've got I'll leave somebody out, I'm sure. We've got Rick, who's the Dean of the College of Aviation Safety. We've got Practical Flight and Simulation. Ed Waters is filling that role right now. I think Ed's here, right?
Jerry Seckler.
And got Jerry Seckler, who is not able to be at Migration this year, but is working as the Dean of Operations, Flight Operations. I think I've got everybody there, right?
Yep.
All right, good, good. The other thing we do is we try to run our programs on a break-even basis. And that sometimes is a leap of faith because you have, well, for one reason, and I'm not going to fuss at you too much because I appreciate the support you've given us and everything you've done, but COPA members have and I understand why, habit of signing up late for things. And so I think I'm going to have to go to the doctor and get checked for an ulcer, and I think Sherry is too, because we're out there making a leap of faith. We think we're going to get this many people at an event. Sometimes we don't get as many as we hope. Sometimes we don't know the lay of the land, and we make a few choices that might cost us a few dollars and make some commitments for hotel rooms, things like that. Well, you got to have a little cushion for that, and we do. And so I think you heard Andy mention that that he thinks a big percentage of the international airplanes must be from Australia. Well, as you might imagine, taking this traveling roadshow to Australia is not cheap. And so we have the ability with the foundation to go into the area, leap of faith, knowing we may lose money on this operation. But with the foundation, and since we've created the foundation, we've been going to Australia and doing CPPPs for several years. But with the addition of the foundation, we can now ask the members of Australia, say, can you help us cover the difference? Can you help us make the investment? You know, we've made the investment to come to you and to help you with your training and your safety. Can you make a contribution to help us and pay it forward for the next area that needs to be served? And that's working. That's working. We're within 3% or 3 to 4% of break even at the end of the year, and we're raising donations well in excess of that. So we've got a going concern. I want to talk a little bit about COPA training and Cirrus aircraft. That may be of interest to you. How do we relate to and how do we deal with Cirrus aircraft, the company, with regard to training? And they see that as extremely important, the relationship between COPA and the factory training people. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is we represent a large portion of the legacy fleet. And they've been selling prospective airplanes now for coming up almost on 10 years. And a lot of us fly airplanes that aren't prospective. It turns out the folks who work at Cirrus don't necessarily have any non-prospective experience. There's a lot of folks that work at the factory who have never really flown the Avidyne equipment or don't fly it regularly. And so they have begun leaning on us for the knowledge and the deep well of experience to help them when it comes with training material and how they want to support these things in the training environment. And so that's of use to them and to us. We have a monthly call to coordinate our activities. We did an event in Mobile, Alabama at the invitation of Continental to work on unifying our engine management strategy. How many people here find engine management to be one of the most complex topics that is regularly discussed? We're trying really, I don't know that we'll get there, but we're trying really hard. We'll never get there as long as Cirrus says one thing, Continental says one thing, and COPA says another thing. We're not going to get there. So we're trying to get on the same page. Slowly but surely, progress is being made. We've issued joint safety letters together. We've worked, Rick especially has worked tremendously with Cirrus on CAPS guidance, refinement, and education. And I think we would all agree that's probably the single largest contributor to the reduction in fatal accidents and the improvement in statistics. So I think COPA has played a big role in that. COPA University will as well. Cirrus received the first AOPA safety award from the Air Safety Foundation, called the NAL Award, and that was a huge win. I want to recognize the folks that I work with and our team works with on a regular basis by name, so you know who it is that's responsible for this. First person that I want to recognize is a gentleman named Travis Klum. Travis is sort of the guy that if I have a problem or I have a complaint, I would go to Travis, and Travis would go, I'll get back to you on that. And then he'd let me settle down a little bit, and he'd come back to me, and sure enough, we'd do something. So Travis has got that customer service skill honed to a high level. Rob Haig, who has until recently been doing nothing but working on the jet, is head of all training now at Cirrus. And Chad Friedrich, who elected not to make the move to Knoxville and go back into the production flight tests, but Chad Friedrich was the engine that drove Cirrus Approach. He was the guy that really made what they're doing now in their web content, the new material. He was the guy that's driving that. You deserve to know his name and how hard he worked for you. Really super person. I don't know how many of you have flown with him or experienced him, but he's a tremendous, tremendous individual. And his sort of right-hand man in the course development is Brad DeGasemi, and he's now still the head of course development for Cirrus. He leads our call every month and is a pleasure to work with. There's 3 folks in the regional training team. These are the folks that are responsible for the quality of the training within the Cirrus training network, the Cirrus training centers and the CSIPs, to get the bad eggs out, to keep the good eggs doing it the right way. They're the folks in charge of making sure the quality of the product is consistent. John Sutherland heads that effort. He's aided by Aaron Weiss and Keith Smith. And we work extensively and closely with those 3. When we go to CPPPs, you will generally see one of those 3 people, and you can interact with them, and we encourage you to do that. If you have questions, they do listen, and we do make changes, and they are sometimes you don't know who the person to talk to. When you say, I've got a really good idea, those are the people to talk to. Those 3 make it happen. So if you've got something you'd like to see changed or you don't understand about Cirrus training, come to a CPPP event, talk to one of these 3 gentlemen. I'm going to give you a quick preview of what's coming for 2017, and then I'm going to step down. We're going to put online courses in, and so we have selected a partner that at the next foundation meeting, we're going to ask for another grant to put in motion our online course development. We've identified a partner we would like to work with, and they're going to help us develop some content. Some of that early content is going to be for aftermarket avionics support. That will be IFD 540, the Dream panels, 650, 750, and R9. And we probably will put those online before we teach them in person. So there'll be 4 new ground courses, and they'll probably be avionics related. We are going to kick off next year. We have had a CPPP in Las Vegas over the years. We've moved that event over to Palm Springs, and we've elected to do a ground-only CPPP event in Henderson, and just beside Las Vegas. And at that event will be the first of a joint effort between the Columbia Corvallis, their version of COPA is called CART. They're going to throw in with us, and we're going to offer our ground material at the same time together. So they've come to us and asked us to, what's the secret sauce that's working for you guys? We'd like to be part of that. So we're going to have them in, because a lot of, they fly a G1000 that's essentially like a Perspective. They fly Avidyne that's essentially like ours. They can take our avionics courses and get exactly the same benefit. And that helps us and the foundation because it reduces our cost to provide, unit cost to provide, and makes us more effective at teaching it. So it's a win-win. As I mentioned, we'll enhance the simulator laboratory, and we're in the process with Tony's subject of revamping the CDM programming and hopefully doing more than one CDM program. In other words, more than one kind of CDM that you can attend. The last thing I'll mention is we've had a tremendous surge in the Partners in Command course. And we've now offer a simulator laboratory experience for the partners. And we're revamping the partner course for next year. And I believe we'll see more opportunities for our partners to become more involved and become better partners. And with that, that's what we're doing. That's COPA University. We really appreciate the support that you've given us over the year. Sherry and I are grateful. We go to all these places and meet a lot of you over the course of the year. And it's very, very heartwarming to see you, to know you're being safe, and to know that we get to work with the best professionals in aviation training in the world.